Dear listeners, I welcome you to my channel. Leave your comments and impressions, I value your opinion. My phone buzzed relentlessly on the coffee table, the screen flashing Dr. Simmons. Confused, I paused the movie I was halfway through and picked up. Hello. Jenna. Dr. Simmons whispered urgently, don't ask any questions. I'm going to send you a video via email. It's important. My heart pounded. What? Why? Is everything okay? Just watch it. I'll explain later. The line went dead. Anxiety knotted my stomach as I switched to my email app. Moments later, a new message popped up from Dr. Simmons. It contained a video file labeled Office Surveillance. With trembling fingers, I tapped play. The footage was grainy but unmistakable. There, in the dimly lit backdrop of what looked like a medical office, was my wife, Mia. Her blonde hair cascaded over her shoulders as she leaned intimately close to a man in a white coat. My breath hitched. That wasn't just any man. That was Dr. Simmons himself. I watched, frozen in shock, as Mia laughed at something he whispered in her ear, her hand resting a little too comfortably on his arm. The intimacy of their gestures, the tilt of her head, the way she moved closer to him, it all pointed to a familiarity that sliced through my heart. The video ended as abruptly as it had begun, leaving a heavy silence in its wake. Fury replaced shock, coursing hot and wild through my veins. I grabbed my keys from the counter, barely remembering to shut the front door behind me. Driving through the evening traffic, my mind replayed the video over and over. How long had this been going on? How could I have been so blind? Questions pounded in my head, each more painful than the last. I pulled up to the medical center where Dr. Simmons' practice was housed, my hands shaking as I killed the engine. The building loomed before me, its windows darkened with the approach of night. It felt like a mockery, a facade hiding the sordid secrets within. I got out of the car, my steps quick and determined. As I approached the entrance, my phone vibrated again. It was a message from Mia. Hey love, running late at the studio tonight. Don't wait up, X. A bitter laugh escaped me. The studio, or here with Dr. Simmons? I pushed open the doors and stepped inside. The reception area was deserted, the usual daytime bustle replaced by the quiet hum of overhead lights. I knew where his office was. I had been here with Mia for a couples counseling session just last month. Each step felt heavy, each breath a mix of rage and betrayal. When I reached his office door, I hesitated. My hand hovered over the handle, the cold metal seeming to pulse with the beat of my racing heart. With a deep breath, I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The room was empty, but the signs of recent occupancy were evident. The slightly askew chair, a pen left uncapped on the desk, and faint traces of cologne that I now recognized as Dr. Simmons. Sitting down in one of the chairs, I tried to collect my thoughts. What was I doing here? What was I hoping to achieve? Then from the adjoining room I heard voices, Mia's laugh, unmistakable and carefree, followed by his deeper tone. Rage blinded me as I stood up and moved toward the sound, my earlier resolve to confront them solidifying with every step. As I pushed open the door to the next room, I was greeted by the sight of them together, exactly as the video had shown. Their heads turned sharply, eyes wide with shock. Mia, I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside. We need to talk. The silence was suffocating as Mia and Dr. Simmons stared at me, caught in the act. Mia's face crumbled from shock into something akin to panic, while Dr. Simmons, adjusting his glasses nervously, attempted to muster some semblance of authority. Jenna, this isn't. Save it, I snapped, my voice cutting through his stammering. I saw the video, Mia. You and him. How could you? Mia's lips trembled, her usual composure shattered. Jenna, I can explain. Explain? My laugh was bitter, hollow. I'm not sure I want to hear it. It was then that the door swung open with a brisk motion. A tall, stern-looking woman in a navy blue suit stepped in, her eyes quickly taking in the scene before her, me standing there, Mia near tears, and Dr. Simmons looking like he wished the ground would swallow him whole. Dr. Simmons, what is going on here? Her voice was sharp, commanding. He cleared his throat, attempting to regain his composure. Miss Cartwright, this is a private matter. Doesn't look very private to me, she retorted, her gaze flicking to Mia and then to me. I'm Sandra Cartwright, the clinic manager, and you are? Jenna Holloway, I managed, feeling suddenly out of my depth. Sandra's expression softened slightly as she addressed me. Miss Holloway, I'm sorry you had to witness this. It seems we have quite the situation here. Situation? I echoed, my anger flaring anew. My wife and her doctor. Enough, Sandra interrupted firmly. This will be dealt with appropriately. Dr. Simmons, you and I will have a discussion in my office. Now. Her tone left no room for argument. As they left, Mia reached out, touching my arm. Jenna, please, let me explain. I shook off her hand, feeling a mix of betrayal and heartache. I trusted you, Mia. How long? She hesitated, her eyes filling with tears. It's not what you think. It's not just an affair. There's more to it. What more? I demanded, though part of me wasn't sure I wanted to know. Before Mia could reply, Sandra reappeared. Miss Holloway, would you join us, please? There might be things you need to hear. Reluctantly, I followed them into Sandra's office, where Dr. Simmons sat looking deflated, his usual confident demeanor gone. Sandra motioned for me to sit. Jenna, what you saw is part of something bigger, Sandra began, her tone serious. We've been investigating Dr. Simmons for some time now. He's suspected of unethical behavior, not just with your wife, but with other patients. My mind reeled. Investigating? Mia, did you know about this? Mia nodded slowly. Yes, and I was helping them. I agreed to be part of the investigation, to gather evidence. The room spun as I absorbed her words. So you were pretending? Not everything, Mia's voice broke. I wanted to tell you, but I couldn't risk the investigation. Sandra interjected. We needed to know how deep this went, how many were affected. Your arrival tonight was unfortunate, but perhaps it's time everything came out. I looked between them, my anger battling with a sudden sharp pang of guilt. So what now? We proceed with the investigation, with your cooperation, I hope, Sandra said, her eyes piercing. Dr. Simmons will be suspended, effective immediately, and we'll need to discuss further steps with you privately. As I left the clinic that night, the crisp air felt like a slap to my face. The drive home was a blur of streetlights and shadows, each twist and turn a metaphor for the night's revelations. What had started as a quest for revenge had unfolded into a complex web of deceit and manipulation. But one thing was clear, the path ahead would be anything but straightforward. The morning after confronting Mia and Dr. Simmons, I found myself pacing the kitchen, every surface covered in sunlight yet my thoughts shrouded in shadow. My phone, previously a mundane object, now felt like a ticking bomb each time it buzzed. Mia's text came through just as I poured myself another cup of coffee that I probably didn't need. Can we meet for lunch? There's a lot we need to discuss. I stared at the message, emotions tangled like the phone charger on the counter. Against my better judgment, I typed back fine, the deli on 5th at noon. I set the phone down as if it burned my fingers. The deli was bustling with the usual lunch crowd when I arrived. Mia was already there, seated in the back corner with 2 iced teas waiting. I slid into the booth, the vinyl squeaking under me, my heart thudding in my chest. Jenna. Mia started, her eyes pleading. I'm so sorry you had to find out this way. I sipped my tea, the cold sharpness a stark contrast to my heated thoughts. Mia. Just start from the beginning. How did you get involved with Sandra in this investigation? She took a deep breath, twisting her napkin. About 6 months ago, I started noticing things, small things at first, patients looking distressed, rumors about Dr. Simmons. Then, Sandra approached me. She had her suspicions and asked for my help. And you agreed to play his lover? I asked, the bitterness leaking through despite my attempts to keep calm. It was never like that, Mia insisted. It was all staged. We needed evidence, and he was careful. The only way to catch him was to make him think he was in control. So, every appointment, every late night at the clinic, staged, she confirmed. We had to make it believable. I hated every moment, but if we could stop him. I processed her words, the layers of deception and sacrifice. And what about us, Mia? Was I just collateral damage? No, Jenna. I love you. I always have. I thought I was protecting you. By lying? I cut in, frustration flaring. By making me the fool. She reached across the table, her hand stopping inches from mine, her gesture hesitant. I thought I was doing the right thing, but I see now how much I've hurt you. I'm so sorry, Jenna. We were interrupted by the buzz of my phone. An unknown number. Hello. I answered, half distracted. Miss Holloway? A man's voice, unfamiliar and formal. This is Agent Reynolds from the FBI. We're expanding the investigation into Dr. Simmons and his practice. We understand you've been affected. Could we meet to discuss this further? I paused, glancing at Mia. The FBI now? This was bigger than I had imagined. Yes, I'll meet with you. After arranging a time and place, I hung up and looked at Mia. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with concern. Jenna, this is getting dangerous. You don't have to be involved. No, Mia, I said, a newfound resolve settling in my chest. I'm already involved. I'm going to see this through, whatever it takes. The rest of our lunch passed in a blur of strategy and apologies. By the time we left, the sun was high in the sky, casting long shadows on the pavement, much like the long shadow now cast over my life. As I walked back to my car, the earlier chill of betrayal mingled with a fiery determination. Dr. Simmons, the FBI, the lies, it was all converging into a storm, and I was right at its center, ready to face whatever was coming. The FBI office was sterile and unwelcoming, the kind of place that seems designed to keep secrets. Agent Reynolds greeted me in the lobby, his handshake firm, his face unreadable. Miss Holloway, thank you for coming on such short notice, he said as he led me to a small, windowless room with a single table and 2 chairs. We sat, and he placed a file on the table between us. We've been monitoring Dr. Simmons for a while, he started, opening the folder. Your wife's involvement has been invaluable. But we believe there's more to this than just professional misconduct. I leaned forward, my interest piqued. What do you mean? Agent Reynolds slid a photograph across the table. It was a picture of Dr. Simmons handing over what looked like a thick envelope to a well-dressed man I didn't recognize. This isn't just about inappropriate relationships, he explained. It's about corruption and potentially organized crime. We think Dr. Simmons is involved in laundering money through the clinic. I absorbed his words, the pieces of the puzzle slowly coming together. And Mia? Did she know about this part? She did not. We kept her focused on gathering evidence of the affairs to maintain her cover and safety. The depth of this corruption is something we only recently uncovered. The room felt suddenly claustrophobic, the walls inching closer as the gravity of the situation sank in. So what happens now? I asked. We're moving in on Dr. Simmons today. We have enough to arrest him and search his properties. We wanted to inform you first, given your personal connection. Just then, his phone buzzed. He checked it, his expression tightening. It's time. I stood, my legs shaky. Can I see this through? Can I be there when you confront him? Agent Reynolds considered for a moment, then nodded. Yes, but you'll need to stay back. It could get dangerous. We drove to the clinic in silence, the car filled with a tense anticipation. As we approached, several unmarked cars converged on the parking lot. Agents in bulletproof vests poured out, their movements precise and rehearsed. Mia was waiting for me by the entrance, her face pale but her posture resolute. She rushed over, her embrace tight and desperate. Jenna, I'm so sorry you had to be part of this, she whispered. It's almost over. I reassured her, although I wasn't sure who I was trying to convince more, her or me. We watched as the agents stormed into the clinic. Moments later, they emerged with Dr. Simmons in cuffs. He looked defeated, his eyes catching mine. There was a flicker of something, fear, perhaps, or regret. Agent Reynolds approached us, a smile breaking through his professional demeanor. We got him, and the evidence we found in his office is going to help us unravel the entire network. I nodded, feeling a mix of relief and exhaustion. What about Mia and me? What happens to us? You're both free to go. Mia, we might need your testimony later, but for now, you've done more than enough. As we turned to leave, Mia squeezed my hand. Jenna, can we go somewhere and talk? Just us. I paused, looking back at the chaos of the clinic, then to the woman beside me who I loved, who had deceived me but also tried to protect me in her way. Yes, I finally said. Let's start over, away from all this. We walked to the car, leaving the remnants of the life we knew behind. The road ahead was uncertain, and though the shadows of deception were long, the possibility of forgiveness and a new beginning shimmered on the horizon, like sunlight breaking through storm clouds.